We're about 10 minutes left until auction close. I'm here on this Twitter Spaces, about 50 followers up. Bidding is beginning to pick up slightly. Let's see, we're at 45, 18, and 20. Still severely below the actual price, but we're inching a little bit closer. A lot of these auctions I've been watching have really been picking up between 50 to 100% of the price within the last 5 minutes. So we'll check back here in a second and see.
MoonCat Pop has arrived. As of this recording, you can officially own one of the collector cans of the 2 vending machines that I own. I have one for Mr. Moo, but this very special one for MoonCat number 10. And I called this originally a collector's edition because there is quite a story behind this specific cat and this item that needs to be shared. And for those who aren't aware, and some of the community members that are aware, there's a lot of Easter eggs that are in this can. There's quite a history behind it. And there's a lot of triumph and failure and errors. So we're going to get this started here, and I'm going to show you some of the behind the scenes of what really makes this can so special and some of the things that may come from it. Well, I tweeted this, it was this yesterday, that I was going to create a video. So here is the video behind it. We're going to start at the very beginning, as first you could see this is the official boutique item. As you can see, there's a few Easter eggs, right? There's a cat right here. You can see there's a cat right here. There's a cat right here. And there's also something that's a little bit hidden that was not surfaced, and I wasn't even aware of that exist in this background until after it was sold. So pay attention to this video because there is a derivative project that exists in this background that was sold at auction at Sothebys. So take that with a grain of salt, or maybe you could say that it's pretty iconic. I'll let you sit here for a second, and maybe you could spot it before we get and display it at the end of this video. I also want to show what it looks like without. So Digivitar, who originally designed it, did a really, really good job. This is MoonCat number 10. So it's the 11th cat that was ever minted. And I purchased this cat for 32 ETH. On August 28th. So I had just bought Mr. Moo at the beginning of August, and I had made some sales on the way up to level up and size up for this MoonCat number 10 in its original ERC20 state on the original adoption center. So then I acclimated it, and that's why you could see, if you go down here to the transaction history, it was 3 months ago. That's when I wrapped. And you see there's been a little bit of a back and forth, and we're going to explain that story behind everything. And this is also a depiction of the 1958 Sothebys evening event sale, which was conducted in London, as you could see, and it's displayed. Digi did a very good job at comparing the two. And when I originally bought this cat, I had not reached out to Sothebys. There was nothing in the auction. I just bought it because it was a top mint, and I already owned Mr. Moo, that was number 6. And I thought that these low mints, which are literally the first ever pieces of generative art that's ever existed, whatever you think of generative, procedural generative, random generative, it's generative art in its most primitive state. So the 11th ever minted or generative piece of art that exists in the form of a pixelated cat. So here's the Sothebys announcement, right? This is when Sothebys said, hey, there's Cat Dad, there's me, and they're making this announcement, and we were all waiting for it. And so before the announcement from Sothebys' website, which you can see here, these are the 3 cats that I was selling. We did a day 1 lot, which is the sub 491. Michael, who was in charge of this, we had been messaging back and forth, maybe about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, sometime towards the end of September. about getting these MoonCats into the auction. And also 888 also was selling a Genesis at the time. And unfortunately, his Genesis didn't sell during the auction. And number 10 did sell. And so it was the first ever MoonCat to sell at an auction house. And Sothebys being one of the top auction houses in the world and one of the most iconic, that's already history. It's the first ever MoonCat to sell at an auction. But there's quite a story behind that as well. But during this entire process, the MoonCat boutique was launched in July, and I was a big believer of it. And one of the top designers, DigiVitar, had reached out to me, and we began discussing after Michael's original announcement that MoonCats were going to be at the auction. And this was before this announcement. Michael Bohana, I think it's Bohana, originally announced it, and we talked about it in Discord. We decided, Digi and I, that we were going to create a very unique and specific one-of-one item for Sothebys. And this turned out that this boutique item was actually the first ever on-chain digital asset with the Sothebys brand, and they wrote off on it. So this MoonCat was the first ever MoonCat to sell at auction house, and this was also the first ever Sothebys branded on-chain asset to sell at an auction house as well. So those two things being very iconic and also having the write-off. This is Michael, by the way. As you can see, he's one of the big NFT guys down there, doing a lot of great work, So Digi and I went back and forth and we discussed, and we had to include Ponderware on this as well to make sure we got all the factual information right. Digi actually flew down here to Las Vegas, where I live, flew down. We met in person. I showed him my place. We got to know each other a little bit better. We went and had some lunch down at a place next to me, and actually recorded a little bit of an interview with him, which was really cool. It was a brand new experience. This was one of the first, he's the second MoonCat friend that I'd ever met IRL. And I really believe in the stuff that he's doing as being the OG MoonCat boutique designer. We went through and we created this one-of-one item that's sold at the auction house. And shout out to Sothebys for even taking the step in the initiative to say, hey, we're going to go even further on the experiment curve, and we're going to put this cat with this attached boutique item out there. So here's Digi talking about some of the things and the concepts. There's a video that I'm going to include here as well that you could see how long it took him to do. I think it took him like close to 10 to 20 hours working on this item, which cost quite a lot of money to mint. It literally was almost 0.3 ETH just to mint itself. Like, it's insane. As you can see, branded on-chain digital asset, the first Sothebys digital NFT item, which I discussed, the depiction of the 1958 sale. And we also worked with, at Ponderware, and we had to get all the description right. And there's quite a tricky process to how we went about doing this sale or this item. We had to mint it literally in the middle of the night when gas fees were low. And then I had to be next to my computer, and I had to...
Night, it's 9:09 p.m. and Digi and I are talking about getting this transaction done. You guys won't believe this, but this transaction for the boutique item that you can see here, if it shows up, is costing 0.262 ETH to mint. This is probably one of the highest, most gas-intensive things I've ever seen in my entire life.
To make sure that I claimed it so that nobody else randomly stumbled across it and claimed it, and that would have been the end of the entire item. So that was a whole nother process on top of like the outrageous minting cost to get it done. But now it's forever immortalized into the Ethereum blockchain, as they are fully on-chain digital assets. And you can see through games like World Wide Web how you can customize your cat to your specificity. So you can see this is an amazing cut up video. Did you really put in a lot of work? And so leading up to the auction, man, quite a story. There's multiple there were multiple Twitter spaces. There's a lot of back and forth. This was right when the beginning of the NFT bear market was starting. So there were concerns on whether things were going to sell, were they not going to sell. And ultimately, what ended up happening is MoonCat number 10 sold for, at the time, $56,000, which at the time was about 11 ETH. And so you could see here the final lot sales, 56,000 ETH or $56,000. And as I mentioned before, I bought this for 32 ETH. So it's about $100,000. So I was taking about a $50,000 loss at the time, or a 20 ETH loss. And I was pretty devastated. I knew going into this, it would be risky. It hurt.
We're definitely going to take an L here. So this is going to hurt a little bit. Sorry that it's still dark. It's still 7:30 in the morning out here. So what we're looking at is about a 10 ETH loss total. So I guess that's the price that you pay for participating in these new auctions, the new wave, everything that's happening. Whoever got these cats definitely got a steal. They got it at least 50% off of everything. So congrats to the buyer, whoever it is, once they reveal themselves. MoonCat number 220 is still at 26,000, so about 40 seconds left. Glad to see that we at least saw some price tick up towards the end. I guess I could write this off at my taxes. Maybe it'll just be a good story, or a good I don't even know at this point. I guess I could write off on my taxes, huh? I guess it's just a good nod to know that we are still super early and not everything's gonna sell. It's all experimental, and at the end of the day, we're all here just trying to survive.
But sometimes when you're experimenting on the cutting edge of innovation, technology, and culture, these kind of things happen and they don't go your way. It doesn't mean that I'm not a believer. We're really so early that it could have been a combination of many different things. And so the person who bought it, I was very congratulatory of them. Their name was Meowth, right? Came in at the very end, right? There was like no bids. Like, this Meowth person had never existed. There was no Meowth bids anywhere. So somebody came in last second, and Meowth, I was like, oh, it must be a cat person. Came in, bought it. Somebody was Moo. So Mr. Moo, because that's the cat that I owned. Somebody was coming after it, and the winner was Meowth. And it hurt a little bit, but I knew, like, sometimes the social rep that came with it was amazing. I gained multiple thousands of followers, and now I can have a brand to myself to build. And this was kind of cool. When the auctions were happening, my name included with Paris Hilton and Steve Aoki, even in front of them. So that was really, really cool. And so I considered, and maybe this is just some cope, that, maybe the $50,000 loss is worth the social rep and now the momentum that I have behind me to continue building in the space as myself. But what ultimately ended up happening, something happened in our Discord right after.
The good news that came out, MoonCat 2878. This generous person swooped in last second and was Meowth and bought MoonCat number 10 for 10.8 ETH and told me that he's going to sell it back to me at that price plus the premiums.
MoonCat 2878 was Meowth. MoonCat 2878. Hey, good news, guys. I got number 10 and he returned it to me at cost. So he saved me from a 20 ETH loss in multiple tens of thousands of dollars. Came in last second, saved the day, and it just shows the true spirit of the MoonCat community. And now, because of the vending machine, I have been able to mint this can, because you have to have the cat in possession to be able to make the can happen. So as I showed you guys recently at the time of this recording, I had to transfer it to him. He made the payment, and then after the payment was done and he sent the money, then I sent it to him for the procedure. Then he sent it back to me a day later, and we still speak. And I'm just like very grateful for somebody like him and the community that we've built in the MoonCat community to save those others who are taking risks for the community. That was my thought. And so after returning it and actually minting the can, I minted the can, and then Digi brings something up to me which caught my eye, and I think this man is an evil genius, and this is the surprise that nobody's known about until right now. Those watching, you're the first ones to ever hear about this. And is there something that you notice here? It's a little funky. If we go to Digi's profile picture, do you guys know what this is? This is a Phunk. Now, if we go back here, do you see a Phunk? Right here. Digi embedded a Phunk into the background and minted it on chain, and it sold at Sothebys. How wild is that? What a crazy Easter egg. You can see the face, the hood, and the video that's attached. You could see the entire process of him creating it and minting it into the blockchain. So this Sothebys number 10, some of the first ever generative art pieces in blockchain history, sold at Sothebys, first ever Sothebys branded on-chain asset, has cats in the background, and it also has an image of a Phunk minted into it as well. So you could say technically a Phunk derivative, which Phunks are a derivative of Punks. A Phunk derivative sold in the backdrop at an auction. And now you guys, or women, people, can own a piece of Phunk history and blockchain history and MoonCat history and Sotheby's history for only 0.04 ETH or 0.05. But there's only 100 cans that exist. Literally only 100 that will ever exist of this can unless we do something else. So you could say this is essentially a derivative project of a Phunk by a piece of history. And I hope to have some rewards and have some utility provided to this, but discussing with a lot of different devs and Pondware team and the MoonCat DAO of how we can continually build this product. And so all secondary sales of the cans, once this vending machine is minted, they 3% goes into the MoonCat Pop DAO, which is called the Meow DAO. And then we can contribute those funds to do some other cool stuff. So you can own a piece of history of this. I want to call it the community cat. Like this can portrays the exact narrative of what the MoonCat community is established in. Just innovation, uniqueness, camaraderie, and a very tight-knit community so that we can all make it together. So buy can now before it's too late. Maybe more products in the future. I don't know. But for now, this is the derivative community MoonCat, as we can call it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about the story. Is this iconic? Is Digi a evil genius? And everything that's happened to return the cat home to Cat Dad. And I'm going to hold this bad boy on for a long, long time. And your collector's can be yours for the cheap, low price of 0.04 ETH for MoonCat owners and 0.05 ETH for non-MoonCat owners. Again, thank you guys for listening to this iconic story. We'll catch you next time.